All right. So I just briefly wanted to go back to this problem, which we've just done, where we had two premises here in this conclusion. And so as we just saw, we make the conclusion false by making the P true and the S false, and then plug those in across the way here. And of course, when I did this one before, we recognized right away that in order to make this premise true, we would have to make R false, and then we plug this in over here, and then of course we got our contradiction over here. But I wanted to show you that in fact in this case, and in other cases as well, if we actually think about this premise first, make this quote-unquote the easiest premise to start with, then P is true, we would know that the dot here would have to be true. And since there's only one way to make a dot true, we could actually pin down Q and R there as both being true, getting R here. And then, in fact, our contradiction would fall in this premise. Now, of course, in either case, whether you start with this premise or that one, the answer that you'll get out of this is that this is, in fact, a valid argument. But my point here, and the thing to emphasize, and why I'm just going over this again, is that when you are doing these problems, if you come up with valid, right, on any of these, or by the way, later on when you look at consistent and inconsistent, when you come up with inconsistent, that is, whenever you're going to be getting a contradiction as part of this process, please understand that if you look up the answer in the answer key, so to speak, you may get your contradiction here, but then if you look up the answer key, the contradiction might be somewhere else underneath another claim. In that case, or in those cases, as long as your answer here is the same, valid, or again, later on you'll see this, inconsistent, as long as your ultimate answer is the same, if your contradiction falls under a different claim, don't sweat that. You're probably just fine. You probably have not made any mistakes. It's just that sometimes you can start just as easily with one claim as another, and in the end come to the same result. And what I've just said here, of course, doesn't apply if the process works out. And again, if we're doing or dealing with arguments, in other words, if the answer is invalid, you would not get a contradiction over here, and so that what I'm talking about here wouldn't be an issue. So just want to emphasize that.